Hi, this is Andrea Kennedy with WhatsUp Granby, and today I'm interviewing my friend Wayne Gagnon, who's an artist here in Granby, and he has some fabulous art in his art studio in his home. So let's go check it out. So welcome to WhatsUp Granby. This is my friend Wayne Gagnon.
Hello.
Who's an artist here in Granby, and I came over today to talk to him about his art in his studio in his home.
And drink wine.
And drink wine, yeah. So what's up, Wayne?
We're going to drink wine first.
Yeah.
How you doing? Beautiful Saturday afternoon.
Yeah.
I have this wonderful wine that is semi-sweet, so it'll go well on a Saturday afternoon.
It goes well with your art.
Art and vino, yeah. Exactly.
It does. It does. You know, recently I noticed that the art you've been posting has a recycled feel to it. You're using scraps and bits of fabric and things you find. Where do you find the stuff you're using in your art these days?
Most of it is a lot of it's coming from my mom. She gives me pieces of cardboard. I actually have a whole box of it up there. It's cardboard that has a nice white inside to it, and it works well with the pens that I use. And a lot of people know my tiny little cards, the 2-inch by 3-inch cards, and those are done totally on reused paper, reused cardboard.
Recycled cardboard
from cookie boxes, just tons
cereal
of
boxes.
Yeah. And so I'll cut those up and I'll put my little Wayne Gagnon stamp on it. And the same thing with the art that I just did. I just did this project with Greenfield Community College where they ask you to mail in art. And that was really the only rule. It's just mail in art. And my goal was to get to do 30 of them for the month of February, which coincidentally only has 29 days. So if you notice the very last one, I think it's the guy singing, actually is dated for February 30th.
Cute.
And so they're going to have an exhibit sometime in February. Actually, not February, April, and that's
with
coming
everybody
soon,
who mailed in their art.
Yeah, I have a friend up in Florence who is actually currently doing that. I visited her last night, and she's actually creating art, and she mails it in. And some people want to do some really fun stuff to see how it gets damaged by going through the mail system, and that's the whole thing. And they want to see how it gets stamped by the mail system. Mine, I didn't really push it that much. My goal was to get 30 of them in, mail them all in envelopes. And then as sort of a performance-y kind of thing just for me is I drove around looking for mailboxes on my way to work. So I was looking where these, we don't notice where these mailboxes are. And so I know that there are some all over the place. There's some, there's a couple in South Hadley I go to. There's a couple in Amherst. There's one right outside Atkins just over the notch. And so all these mailboxes are all over the place in the way.
Cheers.
Na zdrowie.
It is. So, who's curating it, and how's it gonna? How do you know how it's gonna be organized?
Absolutely not.
No,
I
you
have
don't know
no
any
idea
of
how
that?
it's going to be. I didn't want one of my things is I didn't really want to talk to the people who are doing it. I just wanted to mail things in because I didn't want any ideas. I just wanted to just go with the raw instinct. And now there's a woman.
And now they're free to do with what they want with all the art that they've collected. Yeah.
Yep. And I'm not sure what they're going to do with it.
Well, are they going to put on a show?
That'll be in April. Coming up in April, yep. It's going to be an opening.
What did you say, the Greenfield Community College?
Yes. Yep.
Excellent. In Greenfield.
In Greenfield.
Great.
Yeah,
good.
and I know the address. It's 1 College Drive, Greenfield.
Yeah. Well, you really keep yourself busy with your art. You're not, how do you become inspired? And how do you find new ideas?
I force myself to do it. That's what this thing was as soon as I get into the frame of mind that I'm going to do basically one a day, then you'll notice with this whole collection, if you Google Wayne Gagnon, you will find it and go to my my blog, and I have all of those things are up there, and they're little cards, and every one of them is has words on it. And so to me, everything, when I get in the frame of mind, everything becomes a poem. And so I thrive on that. This is like the fourth project I did that was related to that, where...
So everything you sent in wasn't only just a picture, but it was words and a picture?
Yes.
So, so it was a poem, though?
I mean, anything is poetry, I think. A lot of them, are rhyming poems.
But you used mixed media, like it wasn't just pen, like you used to use fabric and things.
Fabric, yep.
And so you're doing that. See, that's something different. I've never seen you do that before.
The neat thing is I have done it, but the public doesn't know about it.
Right.
I did this one project a while back, a couple of years ago, with this book. They would mail you this book. It's a really nice paper. It was hand stitched and nice cover on it. And they said, okay, this thing has 30 pages on it. Every other day we are going to send you a prompt. And I forget what the prompts are. And you had to do something with that prompt. Anything. I mean, it was totally open-ended. You had a blank sheet. And I got into this rhythm of coming up with words based on their prompt. It's 1, 2 words. And then I would write these little poems, and then I would put illustrations with it based on some pen drawings, some I would cut out colored papers, some I would actually go into the recycle and get things like that. And so that was a neat project where I came up with 30 of these things. I really enjoyed it. And then I've done another project. The big project was I wrote a book called Nido Speedo. And I think you have a copy of it. Do you have a copy of that? And I spent the summer writing 100 poems. And it's most of it. The book is mostly about the 100 poems that I did.
Right.
And I threw in illustrations that I happened to have done. I didn't do illustrations specifically for the book, but it just so happens that I had a collection of illustrations, sketches I did during that summer. Do
you remember when, like, after you write a poem and you put it down on paper with a piece of art? Is it committed to memory?
No.
Like, if I ask you to recite something right now, you couldn't recite a poem that you wrote?
There are some.
Are there some that are?
There are some that I can
that are funny and short. You got one?
Well,
I like the popcorn one.
The popcorn one?
The one where the girl was eating popcorn and broke her tooth.
Yes, that one I don't remember, but a lot of those. Okay, you just segue into. Yeah. I'm going to get back into this thing I do called souvenir, and what it is it's poems I collect during the day, and I'll just I have it down to a process where during the day a poem will come to mind, and somebody will prompt it. I'll see somebody will post something on Facebook and break their tooth or something, and I'll write a silly little poem. And
about the incident,
and then I'll come home and I will type it up on my typewriter, my Hermes 3000 typewriter, given to me by Annie at work. Thank you so much, Annie, for the typewriter. It was fantastic. I'm using it. It was her mom's typewriter, and I did a Facebook call for people. It's like my typewriter broke, and she came in with this thing, and this thing is like Cadillac.
Yeah,
it's a Cadillac of a manual typewriter, not this electric stuff.
No, exactly. You can see that it's a typewriter, and it has a feel. Your words when you put it on paper.
It's fun. I love doing that, and it's the tactile thing, and so I'll type it up and I'll scan it in, and this is where I go digital. Is I already have the frame all done, and I'll just put an illustration in there with the thing, and like within a half an hour, if I have a poem in my hand, within half an hour I can get it out onto my blog.
Yeah. Speaking of that, so I know you're the kind of artist who, even though you have a day job in technology, you practice being an artist. You don't just say you're an artist. You really practice it. You make yourself an artist by plugging away every day in and day out, and you don't get caught up on if it's perfect or not. I love that part about your art is you're just interested in making art. It's not have to be so perfect.
That's one of the things that people have a tough time with, artists. People who could probably put out great things is they're so worried about it being perfect that nothing gets created.
Right. Nothing's ever good enough.
Right. And so it's like, oh no, I can't show that. Oh no, I can show that. And if you look at that last series of 30 things, they're hand cut and they're rough cut, but they're I don't even claim that they're good, but they're fun, and I hope that people like them because they're fun, because that's the real purpose of doing these things is to throw something out there and get somebody at the very least to smile.
Right.
And if somebody smiles because of this, then I won.
Yeah, and art is about expression, and you're self-expressing, and that's awesome all the time. It takes courage to do that.
Thank you. If you grab that book over there, watch for the mic. The yellow one.
Okay.
So this thing here, this was actually a huge thing for me. Was Neato Speedo.
Self-published.
Self-published. It's really, and this one was a really interesting experience because I spent the summer just sort of figuring things out. And I can go to any poem here and just know, and feel what's going on in that. This is far better than me going out and taking pictures during a vacation.
Right.
I spent a lot of time at the Cape during the writing of this, and it just
very journalistic, huh?
Yeah, but silly poems, about biking, about my favorite shirt, and about, there are some things that are far deeper than they may appear in here, but they're deep for me, and
right. So, you know what I want to know about? I want to know, I think this is so interesting, especially for young people, artists who are getting started. Your blog or website, every time you put something on there, it's automatically copyrighted, right, by WordPress. Could you tell us more about that? For, there's that's like new technology, and in the world of publishing, and what's that about?
Well, I don't claim to be a copyright expert, but I know copyright experts. And one of the things I learned is if I got a piece of paper and drew a smiley face or drew a silly picture on that piece of paper, instantaneously it is copyrighted. It is,
oh yeah.
If somebody came in, found that, it came in here, found that on the table, and started making coffee cups off of it without your permission, they are breaking copyright because I own that thing. The moment that I put pen to paper.
The moment you created it.
It does
but
help.
But when you upload something to your website, you're legally copyrighted, aren't you, in some way?
It is, I don't know about there's some weirdness with Facebook. I'm not really sure.
What's the website you use for your?
I use WordPress.
WordPress.
And according to
does that cost money? Do you have to
the version
pay
I have,
monthly?
it does not.
It does not.
It does not.
So there's a free version, but you can have a version that costs money.
Yes, and it has other features that you can like add a store to it, things like that. I haven't gotten to the point where I'm adding a store. I'm actually thinking of opening an Etsy store in the coming days. But as far as the copyright thing, I'm just writing on the fact that everything I do is automatically copyrighted. I do write the little. If you look at the souvenir, poems. They would actually, if you Google Wayne Gagnon souvenir, and look at the images will show a bunch of just poems and illustrations, and they actually have the little copyright thing on there, and that's just a technicality, putting that little C next to it, and the year helps me remember what year I did it. But actually putting it on there is sort of redundant because. As long as you can prove that you made it first.
But that's a great idea. How else are you going to sell your art? You don't have a retail space, so are you thinking about having an online store where people can, you catalog your stuff and people can go on and shop?
Well, that's what's happening over on that table over there. I'm going to be doing a bunch.
You're making things
small
to sell.
Yes. Yeah, and
cool.
And
you're going to put this up on your website.
I'm going to have a link from a website. I'm going to go. I'm starting off very cheap. I'm going with Etsy. I'm going to see how that works.
Right. What's Etsy? For people who don't know, what's Etsy?
Etsy is a place where crafters go and they sell their things, handmade things. They have rules. I think technically I could, even though I didn't make this myself, I did all the setup. I did everything, and I went into the copy shop. These are just Xerox copies, and they bound it for me. And it's still, I think, at least last I read, Etsy would allow me to sell this on their site. So that's my hope, is to sell these little ornaments. And it's funny. My goal is to just show that ornaments aren't just for Christmas. So I have these little things that are non-Christmas related, and you can hang them on your tree, but when you put your tree away and your ornaments away, you just keep that ornament out and you find the nearest nail on your wall and just hang it there. So there's little,
I would put it on my refrigerator.
I was working.
That's where I hang
the funny
art.
thing is, somebody said, "Oh, Wayne, you got to do refrigerator magnets."
Refrigerator,
people
right.
love refrigerator magnets.
Right.
Well, I tried that.
What?
And
Didn't work?
I didn't find the right type of magnet
That you could paint on or draw
I'm painting on woods. I'm painting
Yeah.
on wood, and then the magnets I have sticky on one side and then magnet on the other, and you push it, but they just kept coming off. After about a year, they would just fall off, and I would just have these blank magnets and paintings on the floor.
Right.
So I've sort of stepped away from magnets for the time being until I can find a better magnet technology.
Yeah. So that's the little art. Are you working on anything big? You have any big pieces that you're working on these days?
I got some personal pieces up there that I'm working on. I have
Unfinished, and that one too.
that one
Unfinished?
actually goes back about maybe 5 years.
Wow.
Yeah, and
So do you just like get stuck? And
kind
you
of,
just
yeah.
leave
It's like
that?
it's not going anywhere for me. I'll pick it up. Same one across the room. I have another one that I just sort of mess around with.
Right.
She's not quite done yet.
Yeah.
I have an idea for one that's going to be intentionally done. It's going to be intentionally done with just extra paint. So when I get done for my evening of painting, and I have leftover paint that I have nothing to do with, I want to have this one painting always sitting aside.
You're so efficient. You're the most efficient artist, honestly, because you see art in every little thing, and like leftover paint.
Well, the leftover paint thing, I have a story about that. If we go downstairs, my cellar is a mess, so you don't get to see the real cellar.
But that's not your
but
studio. That's just your cellar.
At the bottom of the stairs, there's some walls and ceilings there. And my kids when my kids were young, they used to come down and they used to hang out in my studio when it was downstairs. I'm a big boy now and I've got this studio upstairs. What I told them is I had 2 rules. Always keep the brushes wet, because if you keep the brush laying out, it's wrecked. Because I use acrylic paint, and if it dries, it wrecks the brush. So always keep the brushes paint. Even if you just drop it in water, it's going to save the brush.
Right.
Second thing is, don't waste paint. And by not wasting paint, if you have leftover paint, you paint the walls, you paint the furniture, you paint the refrigerator down there. And so everything down there is painted. And specifically down at the bottom of the stairs, there's this mural of just things that have happened over the 15, 20 years of the time that my kids have been painting, I have been painting. There's like, and I don't know what I would do with it if I ever moved, because it's like I couldn't get rid of that. So I would be like removing these walls and taking them with me. But that was so much fun.
Yep. That one up there, is that not finished? The one in the corner, because it looks kind of finished.
Do you want to get it? We can
Yeah,
discuss that.
You're not finished with that?
Ooh.
It's in the unfinished pile?
No, I just put it there for, you'll see an unfinished one behind it, but.
Okay. This is pretty interesting.
This one turned out to be
So that's
something.
unfinished.
This one turned out to be really cool, and I will, is that within frame? The cool thing about this one is, this was uncommissioned. It was just a piece that I felt needed to be done. I saw a picture, a friend of mine, friend, coworker, grad student at UMass, Kay, she does, or did at the time, I've lost track of her. Hi Kay, if you see this, call me, say hi. Last time I saw her, she was sitting in Amherst eating pizza. And so we chatted there. And so she does this, was it the silk acrobats?
Acrobats, yeah. And they use those in yoga too. I forget what it's called, but when they use the silk drapes that come down and they wrap it up. Yeah. It's acrobats, but it's also yoga. It's a form of exercise. I wish I knew the name of it. I don't know.
Yeah, I forget what it's called.
But I could tell as soon as I looked at it, I knew that that's what it was. I knew that was the drapes of that movement, that yoga.
I've never seen her do it, but she posted a picture of this position, which is called the what is it called? Seahorse.
Seahorse.
I don't quite see the seahorse, but And what it turned out to be, this is like multi-layered. So you see her silhouette in the drapes.
Yep.
She also had one of those cats that were bald. You know, the
hairless? You mean like a hairless cat?
Yeah. So now I wanted to add her cat into this, and you can see her cat in here.
Oh, are those cat eyes?
Those are cat eyes, and there's a little cat nose. So this, because as I was painting
yeah, the cat. This is the cat nose.
Yep.
Okay. Yep.
And then these are actually, they have these big ears, and so you can see in the gray you see the cat ears.
Oh, those are ears.
And the beautiful thing that happened with this one, this is totally unintentional, was if you work your way back to her silhouette, the cat ears actually become angel wings.
When I first saw it, yes, I thought they were wings, but now when you say ears, I see them as ears.
Totally unintentional, but it just happened to work out that way.
Yep. Now, is that finished, or are you going to put color to those ears?
No, this is totally finished.
That's finished.
This is a sort of.
So it's very subtle. You know, the ears, wings, very subtle.
This is
like it.
This is
But the colors are so bright. It's awesome.
Thank you.
I love it.
This is similar style I use.
Now, do you have a name for this? Is this going to be do you name your?
I do. This one's called Seahorse.
Seahorse.
So yes, yeah, and so you have to dig to figure out what it really means.
That's neat.
This is a kind of a style that I've been playing with. There's another one. It's not here, is it? No. It started with the one up there. A friend of mine, JC, is a photographer, and she had some self-portraits, and there's one of her on a rock looking really primal. And so I really liked that photograph, and she actually ultimately gave me the photograph, and so I painted it. Might as well.
That's your friend.
This is my
It's a portrait.
This is a portrait taken from a self-portrait.
Does your friend know that it's a portrait of her?
Oh yes. Oh yeah. In fact, I'll get to that.
Because she looks very
primal.
Primal, more like animalistic.
Yes. Yes. And well,
it turned her into an animal.
Well, the interesting thing about the exhibit that she did was her goal for the exhibit was to show herself in an androgynous mode. So you couldn't tell her gender.
No, you got that right. That's very true.
And she's very muscular. So there was a lot of rock climbing photographs, and there was this is one of her on a mound of rock. And this one just caught my eye. And I just started sketching it in my marble notebook, and it just sort of turned into this, which was really an interesting, one of the neater things that I've done, because there's a certain amount of intimacy when you're painting somebody you know, and she's a very, very good friend, so it was like had this level of intimacy to it, and then I photographed this, and I started touching it up, because when I photographed it, there was some photographic problems, not with the painting, but with the photograph itself of the painting. So I blew it up really big just to erase some of the things that the photograph had some artifact that in the digitizing process. And so I was cleaning that up, and I realized it was a close-up of the face, and it's like, this needs to be bigger. And so there's another one that's actually like twice as big as this.
So you're saying you made a second painting of just the face?
No, the entire painting.
Oh, but
so it's probably about 4 times or twice the size in width and height. And I actually gave that to her, so she has the bigger version of it.
Cool. And I noticed in this one too, it's very angular. There's no round edges in that portrait.
That was something I was experimenting with. Yes. Because even the
I mean, not much, the teeny bit, but not much. Most of it's angular.
And even with the style I was working with, there's certain things that I do to make things more whimsical. And it's a lot more work to make things whimsical than it appears. And so there's some things I didn't do here, because it would make this start to add a little whimsy to this, and I really didn't want whimsy to this. I wanted it to have that edginess to it.
Edgy,
because it kind of it worked with the content
right
of the painting.
Right.
So. Hi, JC.
So, one of the things you're famous for in Granby, because you are famous. You are famous, by the way. You're a famous artist, but you're also a famous contributor to the community. You're always making art for special projects in the community. Like, I remember I went on a bus trip not too long ago, and the bus trip, it was a fundraiser for the Booster Club of the high school. And we had T-shirts that were created by Wayne Gagnon. Wayne Gagnon art T-shirts. It was so awesome with this funky school bus on it. Love it. So what's your latest community project? Like, Men Who Cook is coming up.
Yep.
What's going on with Men Who Cook?
Okay,
you have a relationship with them.
Back to the pub run. That was so much fun. I didn't go on the pub run, but I had so much fun. I was at the gas station, and somebody, I can't remember who it was.
I don't know why you didn't go.
Somebody said, "Hey, Wayne, you coming on the pub run?" I said, "Well, no." And this was 10 minutes before the bus leaves. And she says, and I said, no. She says, oh, come on over. We'll give you a T-shirt, because I hadn't seen the T-shirts at all. And so I go over to across the street from the gas station is the Legion, and I go down to the Legion, and there's tons of people there, and it was like, I'm not gonna lie, being celeb is fun. Because people would come to me. Somehow I ended up with a Sharpie, and people are coming to me, and I'm signing the T-shirts.
Oh, so
buying me drinks, and it was so much fun. And then even after you guys left, I hung around. I was talking to a couple people, and it was just so much fun. So it's not going to my head other than it's just so much darn fun.
Well, that's what I mean. You're putting yourself out there, and you're expressing yourself, and you're not all consumed with what people think. You're just having fun, being yourself.
Because because that's the goal. Is I was thinking about that. It's like, we all have to get all metaphysical or whatever on us. We all have a reason for being here. Okay.
Yeah.
And it may change over your life.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that actually this week. It's like, what am I doing here? Why am I here? You
are here to bring art to Granby.
And
for sure.
But it's even simpler than that. If I can just make somebody smile, then I win. Yeah. It's like, maybe that's my current mode of where I'm at is my goal is to make people smile. And so if I give them a little card, that's
with
it.
Art on it.
I have
it totally makes people smile.
I do. Occasionally, I go to the church here in Granby at the UCC church, and there's a kid there, Wes, and all he has to do is, if he catches my eye, he'll just look at me, and in that look, he's saying, do I get a card today?
Yeah.
And so I'll sit there and I'll draw a card.
My daughter too. Now every time you see a kid in Granby, they're looking for one of those cards.
I know. That's so much fun.
It is. That is your.
The cards are a blast, and for those who don't know, I've actually done that on the streets. I'll sketch on the streets. I've done that in.
Oh well, I have to tell that my famous story about you. The first.
Oh yes.
Yes, I'd been living in Granby for a few years, and I went to Northampton with a girlfriend who's from out of town. And what I was doing was I was showing my friend who's from out of town what an exciting place I live in. Not that Granby's that exciting, but we're so close to Northampton. So we're walking down the street in Northampton, and I'm showing her the sights, and there's Wayne from Granby. And I totally recognized you. I knew you were from Granby, and you were on the corner giving away art. You weren't doing it for money. You were just creating art and giving it away. Donations were accepted. I remember there was a cup there or something where donations were accepted, but that was fantastic, and that is the first time I really met you. But I'd seen you, I'd heard about you.
We crossed paths,
and we'd
at the library things. And
yeah. I mean, that's why I recognized you as being a Granby guy. But it was on the corner in Northampton that I first spoke to you and saw your art and took a piece of art home with me that day. Yeah, and bragging to my friend about, see this cool place I live in? Where these cool people are. They just hang out on the street, make art.
It's so much
So
fun.
tell us about Men Who Cook, though. What's
Men
going
Who Cook,
on?
okay.
That's for those of you who don't know, Men Who Cook is a fundraising event, annual event that is done by the Granby Music Parents Association. So much fun. It's become a huge social event here in Granby where we go to the high school and local men cook for free. They donate the food and they cook for free, and then you pay money to get in, enjoy yummy food, and the Granby Music Parents Association benefits from all that money. So Wayne has been doing the artwork for the marketing and publicity.
It is fun. I actually did that once. I think I did that once, but then I realized I would rather instead of cook.
One logo once, but it's the same.
Oh no!
They use that logo all the time.
I did the logo.
Right. That they still use today.
I did a Guido.
It's awesome, right? It's awesome logo. I love it.
I did the big yellow signs. I don't know if you.
Yes.
That's a big
the
picture of
wooden
Guido.
signs that they use on the street.
That was
to
a fun
promote
project.
it.
When I was doing that, that was fun because what I would do is when I was first painting them, I went to little plug for Sapowski Farms. Thank you very much they loaned me their place. And what I did was, because they were closed, and it was like 40, some couple of degrees above freezing in this place. And I went totally bohemian on this, where I would be painting late into the night, because I had a regular job, and I'd be painting late into the night on these three huge signs. And then I would get hungry, and I'd be sipping, I don't know, some kind of beer, like Steve would show up and give me a Bud Light or something like that. And when you're not expecting a beer, Bud Light is like the best beer ever. And so then I got hungry, and so I'd go looking through the stuff that was left over from the summer that probably is going to get thrown out because it's outdated. And so I was able to find like a package of crackers and
Where was this, at the high school?
No, at Sapowski Farms.
Oh, at the farm.
the stand. They're closed down for the summer.
Oh, I
and
see.
so me and their cat were painting
And foraging.
and foraging for food. Yeah, so I found salsa and crackers and Bud Light.
So what are you doing for them this year?
So this year I have another painting. I actually did a chili
for donation.
For the first year. I actually painted.
They have a raffle and people donate things, and you donate a painting every year.
Every year, yep.
Right.
Yeah,
okay.
and this year the design is not out yet. It's in my sketchbook.
It's a surprise.
Well, it's.
Is it going to debut that night?
No, I'm going to throw it out there on the web. I actually want to start some buzz about it.
Yeah. Sure.
I don't have my sketch pad on me, but I already have the sketch out. It's basically a barbershop quartet.
Cool.
I try to keep it so that it is music related.
Right.
Well, I don't
music
try. I succeed
related.
at keeping it. Like last year, I did Beethoven as a cat.
And how big is it? Like on this size canvas?
I haven't got the. Normally they're maybe this size. Sometimes they're a little bit smaller, like that size.
You haven't gotten to the canvas yet?
Oh no.
What?
The hard part is done. The hard part is already done. What?
Wait a minute. How far away is that?
April 2nd.
You have like 2 weeks.
Oh come on.
Okay.
Oh, come on. My
So
last
let's put
painting.
that in perspective.
Last painting I cranked through in a week.
A week.
A week.
How many hours do you think out of the week that you put in to create a painting?
Something like this. Probably about 10 hours.
10 hours. So are you a deadline guy? You wait till the last minute? And stay up all night?
I tend to do that, but sometimes I tend to do that. I'll be here in the studio. This is beautiful. If you're an artist,
Where you can take a nap?
no napping. What happens is I'll sip. There's a stash up there. You can see that a little bit of Greek brandy and some cognac and my friend Sherry. Hi Sherry, gave me some tequila. So yeah, I'll sip. Mostly I'll be sipping wine or my other favorite.
Well, you better get on that.
I will. And what I do is I'll listen to jazz. And then at one point, 11 o'clock, jazz turns into classical music. And that tells me that I'm up late.
Yeah.
Start to wrap things up, and usually about an hour later I'll wrap things up. But no big deal. The design, the hard part is the design.
Right.
Once the design is done.
So you draw it. I know, and because I know you for years, let me explain to the audience that actually all these paintings are complete on a piece of paper before he
puts them on canvas?
There is a lot of times I will draw it
Like a draft.
I'm looking.
Draft it first.
I'm looking at the last painting I did. I'm seeing some sketches over there of the last painting. So I basically did the sketch 4 times before it actually hit, or 3 times before it actually hit canvas.
Right. Right.
So I'll draw it really, really rough to get an idea. It's like, oh yes, I like that, and then I will. This was this last painting.
Well, that's where your perfectionism comes into play, though. Is that you make sure before you commit it to paint and canvas, it's perfect before you do that.
And that's why I actually admire people who can take a canvas and start painting
right
on a canvas.
Right.
I can't do that. Mine
you don't
involves
do that.
Levels of design. Rough sketch, another rough sketch, and then a detailed sketch. Like that thing right there is exactly the size of the one that actually got painted on the canvas.
Right.
So I will have a sketch that's exactly this size. And in fact, I think hanging downstairs in my old studio, I have the sketch that this was based on, and then I will just take that sketch and put it over the canvas, which it's exactly the same size as the canvas, and I'll put like carbon paper, graphite paper underneath it, and I'll just copy it over. And then from there, I will start painting and filling in. It's almost a color by number.
Right.
I'm letting out my secret that I'm a hack.
I don't think it's a hack. If you have a process,
it's the process.
It's a process. Right. It works for you, and like you're just comparing yourself to other people and saying, "Well, I'm just not as loose in my design. Like I'm very specific. I know what I'm going to do."
The looseness comes with the original sketches. That's the thing is I work for the original sketches through the original sketches. That's where the creativity comes in. Once I get the graphite on here and all the lines are lightly drawn and I start painting, that's where it actually becomes more of a Zen experience and more I'm filling in spaces. That's when I can actually sip the wine and just kind of fill in the spaces
and relax.
And exactly. And put the layers of paint down, and then when I draw the lines, that's more the line drawing. The filling in with the colors, that's the easiest part, and then the line drawing is the more crafty part of it, because it took me years to figure out how to draw lines with a paintbrush.
Right.
And I have down in my cellar well over there, I have some early stuff where the lines are not as clean, and there's really, and so some of the lines aren't clean, but it's more of I've actually worked that into a style. If you can't do it the way you intended. I wanted, I originally said, can I do like really, really clean lines with a paintbrush? And it wasn't working, but what I found out was these lines that have this texture to them, even the lines have texture to them, become a style. And it's like, oh, I think I like that. I think I like that.
Exactly, yeah.
And then filling in the corners, all my paintings, I tend to like fill in the corners with paint. That's why it's a lot of work to do that. Every intersection of lines, I try to fill it in and smooth out. Right. Except for this rough, this more bolder.
And, lines are an important part of your art, for sure. So it's interesting that you brought that up. That because you use lines in every piece for order and to convey your message, and the picture and everything.
That's interesting. I find that interesting because in real life there are very few lines. Like when you're drawing a picture, my shirt against this futon is not a line. It is like an intersection of 2 colors.
Yeah.
So the line is so artificial.
Yeah.
And and that's how we learn to draw.
Right.
We learn to draw the line.
Using a line.
But if you're doing realistic stuff, it's not about
There's no line.
It's not about a line. There are very few lines in the world.
Right.
It's all about intersection of colors.
Right. And then letters, words and letters are lines, are a series of lines. And that's one of the reasons why I think when you do a piece of art and the poem and the art together, it goes so nice, because it's...
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, it works. It really works when you do a poem and a drawing together, because it's the series of the lines. It's all the words and the letters are all part of the big picture, right?
It's fun, yeah.
And when we're done, seeing these sketches graduating is that's pretty cool to see the progress. Like
it's
from your
it becomes
little
more
doodle to the big, pre-painting And then there's probably a few more steps in between, but that's what I can see.
I mean, this thing itself, this painting here, I drew probably no less than 6 times. In different formats. I've gridded it to make it bigger, and the same with the dove, the infamous dove. Google Wayne Gagnon dove, you'll find it.
Yeah.
And what that, I drew that thing probably 5 or 6 times, and then I drew it to have a smaller picture, which is right over my head. And that I finished that drawing, and it was like, no, this needs to be big. And my friend Michelle gave me some boards, these boards. And what I did was I took those boards and I put them together, and I had this 6 foot by 6 foot thing now. And I just totally moved all the furniture away in my living room, and I just painted on these huge boards. And I used the classic style of taking an existing picture and gridding it out.
Yep.
And so I gridded it out, and I used a copy of it.
You did that when you made the canvas for Granby Recycling Day.
I did that, yes.
Yes, because that canvas was so huge.
Yes.
And I remember the little sketch. But how do you turn a little sketch into?
Well, that was different.
How many feet? I mean, that canvas was huge. How many?
Oh God, it was like 7 feet tall, and
by 14 or 28.
50, yeah, it was huge.
Huge.
That one I cheated with.
You used grid system.
That one I actually had. I drew pictures of faces.
Oh, right.
I had these rectangles that I used for the heads,
right.
And then I had these cardboard shapes for eyes. And then I used like probably a saucepan or something to circle for the eyeball. That was a challenge, because I totally that was back. I had an apartment over on South Street, and it took up my entire living room,
right?
With all the furniture away, and then
you didn't have this awesome studio.
I didn't have a studio. Well, for that I would have to move out to my living room anyway, because it's so huge.
Right.
And I was afraid of the paint leaching onto the floor, so I actually laid out plastic, and then I laid out the canvas, and then I just spent an entire week.
Speaking of which,
That's coming up.
Well, Granby Recycling Day is going to be May 7th, and remember,
plug it.
Yeah, well, that's another show. But we need to. The last time we had had nothing to display. Remember, you used to display your canvas on the pod, but there is no more pod.
So we have
to figure out how to display your big, beautiful canvas.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Challenge accepted.
Yes. Well, Wayne, I could talk to you all day long about your art and
I got plenty of wine, so
yeah, and things. But I think it's time we move on. And thank you so much for being my guest.
It's so much fun.
You're so awesome, and I keep making art and making us smile.